The Scottish Sika swarm is on the march. Are we at risk of losing true Highland Reds because of crossbreeding with Japanese Sika?
What do we feel about the possibility that the red deer in Scotland become substantially hybridised into some kind of a mongrel deer?
The Best Hunting Boots 2020. Hundreds of you responded to our survey. We have the results. Hen harriers. It looks like a bumper year for hen harrier chicks. Terrible news for the RSPB. Grouse moors are producing most of this year's chicks. Plus having a crack at copious corvids. I'm protecting the pig nuts at home in Somerset. We have news. We have Hunting YouTube. Welcome to Fieldsports Britain. Will there come a time when a Scottish roar is replaced by a Japanese whistle? Will a true Highland Red even exist in 100 years? Some fear not.
What do we feel about the possibility that the red deer in Scotland become substantially hybridised into some kind of a mongrel deer? Or do we want to try and do something about it before it's too late?
The reason? Sika deer, an incredibly resilient and hardy species introduced to Scotland at the turn of the last century, capable of interbreeding with reds, producing hybrids, which can confuse.
Appearance of the animal is very concealing. Real experts have great trouble in actually identifying whether an animal is a hybrid or not. It's really hard. I haven't yet had a request to do this in Scotland, but I did get a request to genotype a claimed world record Sika stag from Texas in the USA, and it turned out to be very substantially a red deer.
We spoke to Professor Josephine Pemberton from Edinburgh University at the British Deer Society AGM back in 2018. She says the Sika swarm is a pandemic that needs nipping in the bud.
You've got a distinct population now in Sutherlandshire that's now spread its way all the way north to almost Dunbaith and Caithness. There's a distinct population on Loch Ness side.
Aye, on the back road.
And then there's a population on Kintyre that's now spreading all its way north.
To explore this further, we join deer expert Niall Rowantree to hunt a red and a Sika on very different days.
Do you get them sitting right up on the hill like the red deer?
Aye, just in this.
You've seen the positive nature of the strokes here.
The first is at the end of October. Ardnish is a truly exceptional place to stalk red deer. Neil and Stevie only take a few off here every year. The peninsula is not immune, however, to an advancing Sika population. In the last 5 years, they have shot 3 Sika stags and 5 Sika hinds across the estate.
When you go through this experience of coming by a boat and that, you get a feeling of wild and wilderness, when really wilderness it's not, but wild it is.
Once ashore, Mike Yates and his son join us. They are guests on the island, and Neil has invited Mike to stalk with us.
This is us just starting the hind cull in Ardnish for the season. We completed the stags about 10 days ago, and what we're doing here is we're certainly looking at a group of hinds and just basically talking over what we like to do here. Now the peninsula copes quite comfortably with a population of around 100 adult females, so what we try and do is keep the population at that sort of level, and then selectively take away either poor quality animals, animals that are old, or animals that are in poor condition, could be for other reasons like parasite burdens or that sort of thing. And the great thing on a day like this is we're in good fettle, they're in good fettle. It's a nice sunny day. You can see that her coat's clean, it's got a good colour to it, she's got a good covering on her back, and she's in good spirits.
We seem to have picked up some stragglers here. What's going on? these two gentlemen here.
Oh, I thought you were talking about straggler deer. Well, I mean, you threw me for a moment. I wouldn't have referred to you as a straggler. A stowaway maybe, but not a straggler.
Yeah.
No, these are friends of the family that own the estate, and they are coming out and spending today with us, helping us manage the deer. So they enjoy stalking, they eat venison, and it's just a natural progression of coming to the areas to go out and take a hind for the freezer.
The weather is stunning here. Unfortunately, a few weeks later, it isn't, and it's touch and go whether we go out at all with Neil's friend Robert. He manages Sika on an estate another hour north of Ardnish.
Not really down in here at all.
What we're up to here today is Robert's a stalker and deer manager in this part of Scotland, and as part of our programmes of looking at species of deer, we're accompanying Robert today on a Sika stalk, and we're going to see how he does his stalking on Sika here, learn a little bit about the management of Sika in the area, and then we're going to widen it out and talk about Sika in Scotland as a species, them being an alien non-native, and what their management really means, and what's likely to be the case for Sika in the future.
The Sika are good at disappearing into cover. The denser, the better. Another non-native supplying that cover is Rhododendron ponticum.
David and I have talked about this a lot in the past, because an awful lot of what you and I are having to face, particularly with Sika deer, is that they're described by government as an alien non-native. They're expecting people to eradicate or remove them and to stop them populations expanding. And yet in ancient woodland like this, which is part of the issue, stuff like this, it doesn't seem to get the same political profile.
Yeah.
SNH are more worried about you shooting Sika stags than cutting down rhododendron.
Yeah.
And I think to this habitat, that's probably a bigger threat.
Yeah. Well, that's why they thrive so much, because this is perfect habitat for them, with all the roddies.
Absolutely.
The sunshine means the reds are out and sunning themselves. Neil hits reverse in the gator when he spots a hind, her calf and a yearling enjoying the autumn rays.
Weapon's empty, okay. And if you watch the bubbles, you can see them drifting off down with the wind. And this broken ground, as it swirls, it can give you an idea of how the wind's reacting over the contours of the land. And then you can pick your route wisely using it. It's not just that I have a passion for blowing bubbles. The deer are lying 160 yards in front of you. Okay. There are three. 1, 2, 3. That one. One on the right. The one on the right, the youngster. They're all lying down. You'll have to wait for them to stand. Okay. Stevie, you'll come up the other side here and put the rifle in front of you. The rifle will be laid on top of this knoll. Make sure that we know you've got a clear picture, okay? Nice and slowly as you come up, so she doesn't see the light on your face. Up you go. But if you look, David, you can see that the coat, the physical condition of these deer, compared with the deer you were looking at earlier, is noticeably different. You can see the yearling is quite small. If you look at the hind, you can see the coat's discoloured. Her hips are sticking out. And the calf behind her's got quite a tatty winter coat. But the hind herself is quite small. It's like farming at 150 yards. Are you ready like a coiled spring? I'm saying, are you ready like a coiled spring? Whenever you're ready, sir. Let that head straighten away first. Okay. Did it strike above her?
No, I didn't.
It's a good shot, right through it.
Straight back.
Yeah, the blood's pouring straight out.
Well done.
Excellent shot. Look at that now.
Yeah,
It's down. Animal's dead as a boot tucket. That ELDX bullet's devastating, isn't it?
Unbelievable, isn't it?
It's a bullet we've been trying this year. It's the Hornady ELDX bullet. It is utterly devastating.
That worked very well.
That worked
That's
very well.
an
Indeed.
excellent shot, wasn't it?
A superb shot. The animal's stone dead. Yeah. So what we'll do now is just we'll sit quietly for a minute and just let the others drift away.
Is this common practice for allowing the animals to drift away?
Yes. That's exactly the one we want to shoot. We will eventually shoot the other two, but
It looked a bit scabby.
it does. You could see the difference compared with the animal you looked at earlier.
Yeah.
Well, tell us what you think about that yourself. What did you think of that yourself? I think that's the right way to shoot deer. They had no idea you were there.
Quite a long wait.
Aye. I prefer to do that though. I mean, there's a lot of people that will say whistle, shout. We've always had the practice that let them do what they're naturally going to do anyway.
Yeah.
And it means that if you did want to shoot all of them there, okay, you've shot one, but the loudest thing they've heard is the bullet striking the animal.
Yeah.
And you can see they're stood there, they're quite confused, they don't know what to make of it.
Yeah.
And if we lie quietly, they'll just drift away. But from the discussion we had earlier, when you saw the big hind, the calf and the follower stood opposite lagging, and what you're looking at now, you can see the difference yourself. Seeing it, seeing it through the trees, that's a Sika.
Yeah.
Between the two, what's your favourite to stalk? What do you find the most challenging? What's the best crack?
My favourite out of the two is probably the Sika stags.
Interesting.
Calling, whistling them.
Uh-huh.
And I've called a few out of cover, but my best results have been when these mature Sika stags have maybe been going away from me, and you think, oh, that's it, they're away.
Uh-huh.
And then you give it a blast, and then a quieter blast, and you just see the shoulders turn, and they come charging back up to you.
Uh-huh.
It's amazing.
That's good.
Unbelievable.
That's exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I've often found that you take people out stalking, and when a stag roars, particularly in a woodland and it's in the evening, they kind of think that's exciting. When he calls, quite often people near jump out of their skin with the noise.
Yeah, it's quite eerie because, say for instance, you're coming down here and it's kind of starting to get dark, and you're just coming along the edge of the wood, and a Sika stag whistles, the hairs on the back of your neck.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. The only thing I've heard like it is American elk, when you get a bull elk bugling.
Well, it's
very similar.
It's actually an elk whistle I use.
Uh-huh. That'll work.
It works fantastic.
Yeah, I tried an elk cow, the collar for an elk cow, and I use that as a Sika call. I'll show you one of these days. It works very well.
The Sika are still being elusive and the weather is not helping. When we do see a suitable hind, the sensible decision is to leave her for another day.
When the river's high like this, he's not going to take the risk of either shooting over a body of water or going into a situation where he can't get the animal out easily. And I totally agree with him. And that's the whole thing about experience and good sense when you're doing a bit of stalking. It's that sometimes the risk is greater than the reward, and it's better to leave it for another day. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah, there's always another day.
On our niche, things have worked out well.
We just look at it from a health point of view. Just a ruckle of bones.
We took the yearling with as little disturbance as possible.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to defend to a greater audience what you do than we ever did. And I think the difference is that when we were kids, the venison went to the village shop, it went south on the train, and everybody was part of the process at a local level. And Kathy and David and I have been talking about this the last couple of days, that there are a number of issues. There's a lack of understanding, there's a disconnect, and there's an element of dislike without comprehension of the importance of what you do. I mean, the difference there is that we surgically removed one animal from the herd. There's limited disturbance and the rest of the deer are round about. Some of the alternatives that people propose would end up with these animals in huge groups travelling vast distances, and I don't know how that would fit with our modern society.
All that remains now is to get back to the boat. Two different hunts, two different deer, and a real danger that if, like the rhododendron, its spread goes unchecked, it will change the Scottish landscape forever.
So if I was a Sun journalist, my headline would be "Red Deer Lost Within 100 Years."
Yes, I might need to give you some more refined sums, but that's the kind of thing I'm thinking about.
Really? Is that serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
For more information about the Blaser R8 and the full range of Blaser optics, go to blaser.de.
Sounding good, Stevie. Sounding good.
I'll just keep rowing.
Thank you, Neil and Stevie. You do have the best office in the world when the sun is shining and the midges aren't eating you alive, of course. Now, someone else who fancies a bit of a nibble. It's David on the Fieldsports channel News Stump.
This is Fieldsports Channel News. Scotland's Green Party has ambushed the government with a proposal to ban mountain hare shooting. Green MSP Alison Johnston lodged an amendment last week to the Animals and Wildlife Bill to make mountain or blue hares a protected species. It's due to be debated and then voted on by the Scottish Parliament today, Wednesday the 17th of June 2020. Falconer Roy Lupton flies his golden eagles on blue hares in Scotland.
A lot of people are saying that that would be very detrimental to the conservation of hares, and I actually agree. I mean, if you look at the biology of hares and the cycle that hares go through, they are a lot more prevalent to disease if their numbers are not controlled and kept at a manageable level, especially on managed grouse moors. The population densities may be dropping in areas where they're not managed, so a lot of the RSPB sites where there is no predator control going on, so they've still got large populations of foxes, stoats, weasels and other predators. The hare population is depleting, but all across the areas that we have managed grouse populations, managed moorland for grouse shooting, then the hare population is actually thriving and doing very well.
Can you trespass on private land to go near a bird of prey's nest? If you're a bird watcher, the answer may be yes. However, a row has erupted over bird watchers' rights to monitor protected birds, with some politicians such as this MSP disturbing fledglings for the photo opportunity. Last week, a Sutherland gamekeeper spotted a man disturbing a merlin nest like this one. The man claimed to be taking his daily exercise before saying he was licensed to visit the nest by the Scottish Raptor Study Group. Criminal penalties are set to rise for nest disturbances under Scotland's new animals and wildlife laws, with punishment of 12 months jail, a £40,000 fine, or both. The bill is a Pandora's box for Scottish animal rights activists, proposing a raft of measures protecting badgers and seals and strengthening laws forcing the rehoming of pets. The Scottish Gamekeepers Association is seeking clarity from the Scottish Government on bird monitoring. Natural England is using paperwork to ban wildfowling in England this season. After Wild Justice's lawyers threatened the government in spring 2019, Natural England ended the system of shooting birds under general licences on what it terms European protected sites, or on land within 300 metres of those sites. That's around 10% of England's landmass. This is now threatening conservation work on England's coasts. The agency says it's unable to renew wildfowling consents when there is uncertainty about the level of shooting activity within European protected sites, such as SPAs. Consents are the legal paperwork that ensures wildfowling can take place on sites that fall within national conservation designated areas. Basque is challenging the review. Police have dismissed claims that they're investigating gamekeepers in the Peak District. For weeks, animal rights extremist group called the Hunt Investigation Team have been posting stories and videos of gamekeepers on the Moscar estate going about their legal daily duties, covertly filming them with hidden cameras. HIT posts the films on social media, accusing the keepers of a variety of crimes from wildlife cruelty to trespass, and saying that police officers are about to pounce. Derbyshire Police says no illegal activity has taken place on the estate. In the videos, HIT admits to tampering illegally with the gamekeepers' traps. Basque hit out at the SAB, saying it was time for estates and the shooting community to stand up to attacks on social media.
I think the days are gone and the gloves are off. We need to make sure that the estate highlights all the good things that they do, and when things like this happen and the estates are targeted, any burying of the heads in the sand is not going to do any good at all. We have to meet this head on, and that's what we're trying to do.
Reports from all over England suggest the government is issuing no or very few licences for gull control. Following Wild Justice's legal challenge, 2 species of gull came off the general licences in England last year, and while they are a scavenger in seaside resorts, they are a predator on moorland, feasting on small mammals and ground-nesting birds' eggs and chicks. You can still shoot lesser black-backed, greater black-backed and herring gulls in Northern Ireland. The gull problem is international. A police officer in Denmark had to use a riot shield to stop a gull attack in this video. And locals took the law into their own hands in North Norway and set illegal glue traps for gulls. A local wildlife officer found this one and dispatched it. The animal rights website that promotes vandalism and thefts from meat businesses has stepped up its threats to the police. Last week we reported unoffensive animals post on social media threatening one cop, one bullet. Now it's posted a story headlined "Cops Burn Everywhere" about an attack on a Greek police station and cars torched by anarchists in Austria as part of action to smash the police state. The post also points to a crowdfunding website raising money for a man accused of throwing a Molotov cocktail at a police car in Brooklyn, New York. West Yorkshire police are appealing for information after 2 swans were shot dead in Leeds. The male and female swan was shot on Marshland. A man was seen with a rifle in the area around that time and police released security camera images hoping someone recognises the suspect. He was with another man and a dog. All unmarked swans on open water in the UK belong to the Crown, though the Queen only exercises her swan ownership rights on one stretch of the Thames. In 1998, the UK government repealed the law, making it treasonous to kill an unmarked swan. A Swedish shooter is questioning the logic behind a proposed EU-led ban. Multiple IPSC gold medal winner Pierre Clété points out that a new law to be voted on in a few days in Brussels makes it illegal to carry lead ammunition through the whole of Sweden. It prohibits hunters from holding lead shells within 100 metres of wetlands. Pia points out the definition of wetlands is vague and her country is covered in lakes, rivers and marshes. Pia contacted Swedish members of parliament, but none knew about the proposed law.
In this new restriction they're talking about, it's going to be forbidden to actually have lead shots on you when you pass within 100 meters of a wetland, which is basically all of Sweden. So people hunting, for instance, might not be hunting over wetlands, but they have to pass some wetlands on the way to the hunting grounds. They will not be able to do that. And this is just ridiculous.
When a violent armed robber went on the run in Spain, the police called in the local hunters to help with a hunt. Pedro Lozano, or the Recano Rambo, as Spanish media called him, injured a winemaker with a sawn-off shotgun and had been evading police since the beginning of the year. When the police deputised the local hunting club, Raúl Esteban, president of the Valencian Community Hunting Federation, told reporters, "We know every last corner. We know all kinds of areas that practically nobody gets to." They caught up with Lozano near a village called Andorra. Police shot and injured him and transferred him by helicopter to await trial in Zaragoza. While hunting safaris in Africa are suffering because of the coronavirus lockdown, photographic safaris are on the verge of extinction. 93% of safari operators report a drop in bookings of at least 75%. That's the conclusion of a survey by Safari Bookings. Borders are closed and airlines grounded, leaving hundreds of thousands of workers jobless. US police have arrested animal rights activists for burying 5 piglets on a farm boss's property. The 5 out-of-state animal rights activists, aged between 27 and 29, from the group Direct Action Everywhere, buried the piglets in the farm of the CEO of Iowa Select Farms, Jeff Hansen. The group says it's protesting against the company's use of ventilation shutdown to kill pigs at its facilities. And finally, archery in Asia could date back nearly 50,000 years. Scientists found animal bones in caves in Sri Lanka that looked to be killed by arrows. They searched further and found early arrowheads made from animal bones dating from 48,000 years to 34,000 years ago, during the late Pleistocene. They also found that arrowheads became longer over time, indicating that they were used to hunt bigger game. The record for the earliest known arrowhead goes to a 60,000-year-old bone point unearthed in South Africa. You are now up to date with Fieldsports Channel News. Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.
Thank you, David. And there is more news on our website. There's a link to that in the description below. Plus, there's a news item coming up in this show about hen harriers, paid for by the Fieldsports Nation, our supporters. Thank you to everyone for that. We'll be revealing the best boots of 2020. I'll be shooting rooks and crows. First up, if you want thermal, Scott Country has it covered. Now, survey results time. Last week we did rifle ammunition, which created quite a bit of a stir in our industry. Just to make this clear, this is your survey, not ours. In March 2020, during the coronavirus lockdown, we asked you to fill out our survey. 3,500 of you, your friends, your family, maybe even your probation officers came back to us with replies, and we spent the last 2 months sifting through them. This week it's boots. Who wears what, for what, and who's top? There are so many walking boots, so many makes and models. So, which do you choose? Well, there's one clear winner among Fieldsports Channel's viewers with nearly a quarter of the market, and we'll come to that at the end of this item. First up, out of the 3,500 responses we had to our field tester survey in March 2020, 445 boot owners gave us their answers. These are the top 5. The Mindel Dovra, the Dovra Extreme, the Harkula Pro Hunter, the Harkula Mountain Hunter, and the Dedito Moorland. We asked respondents to rate them for comfort, waterproofing, durability, value for money, and, if they had to go away for mending, customer service. And here are the ratings winners. One trend is the supremacy of the Gore-Tex brand, called GTX in boot world. Invented in 1969 in Delaware, USA by Wilbert L. Gore and his son Robert, it's been a 50-year success story. It allows waterproofing and breathability, and we made a film at its facility in Germany. Lots of boot manufacturers use GTX, including Ariat, Brasher, Scarpa and Zambalan, and most of you who have a GTX boot have either a Harkula or a Mindel boot. And finally, when it comes to the manufacturer that dominates the hunting boot market amongst Fieldsports Channel viewers, with a massive 22% of you, maybe no surprises, from Bavaria in Germany, founded in 1683, so now celebrating 337 years as cobblers to the lot of you, and as used by Felix Baumgartner in his 2013 Jump from Space, it's Mindel. Interesting stuff, and we have many more films and reviews planned for that. The reviews you'll find on the dedicated Field Tester section of our website. The films are on our new Field Tester YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to that by following the link in the description below. Plus, next to it is a link to the film we made with Dom Holtam at the Gore-Tex factory all those years ago. Next, grouse moors are saving hen harriers. What are the secrets to their successes?
It's early morning on a grouse moor in northern England. Hen harriers circle above as gamekeeper Morgan Brown approaches feeding poles.
Well, I'm up here every morning for 8 o'clock. Quite often you hear them chattering when you get so close to the feeding pole and you get dive bombed, which they're obviously trying to deter you away.
Thanks to keepers like Morgan, the hen harrier population is bouncing back, particularly on grouse moors. He is allowed to approach the nests as part of a diversionary feeding programme.
We're really pleased to be part of government's national scheme, so it's an England hen harrier recovery programme that we're a part of. So we have nests on moors managed for red grouse, being looked after by gamekeepers in 3 counties. So that's across Lancashire, Yorkshire, Cumbria. And so far we have 12 nests across all of those counties. Last year there were 12 nests that were successful across the whole of England.
The
hen harrier is one of the species which actually benefits from actually a gamekeeper's sort of normal operation. They actually benefit from having this mosaic of different habitats. The hen harrier nests on the ground, and they're quite smelly nests, and so it's quite easy for a fox to be able to locate and find them.
Hen harriers are vulnerable to being eaten by foxes and stoats, and gamekeepers will control those numbers at this time of year so that other things can also breed really well on the moors. So curlew, lapwing, golden plover, they're all nesting on the ground, so they all benefit from the same kind of management. And that also produces a larder of food for the hen harriers, which might attract them into the grouse moors in the first place.
We have a plague of voles and stuff at the minute, which is what their food source is. So they seem to love our moor for some reason, and the nesting areas are brilliant for them. They do damage, but with the diversionary feeding slows that process down a hell of a lot. We have noticed with the brood of grouse we have about, and this don't seem to be touching them at the minute, so fingers crossed it is doing the job. It stops the chicks whinging at the mother for her to go hunting, so us feeding her stopped her hunting, and the male, the only thing he's bringing back to the nests at the minute is voles anyway. So
the moor is home to many species. There are numerous bog owls, a goshawk male, 2 buzzards, 100 gulls and 2 marsh harriers like this one. The diverse wildlife on managed moors is routinely ignored by the anti-shooting lobby and celebrity Chris Packham's Wild Justice Group, who want to get rid of keepers and leave the moors alone.
We have huge tracts of heather moorland, and other nations are trying to mimic that and replace and reseed and get their heather moorlands back up to the standards that we've got here. So whilst other nations are trying to increase the amount of heather moorland, we seem to be taking the view, oh, well, it doesn't really matter, which just does seem extraordinary, and I wonder how much of that is being contextualised by the land use rather than being contextualised by the habitat requirement. Everything is working against the hen harrier as a ground nesting species on open moorland, and so every bit of help they can get is important, and we know this.
Thank you, Ben. And that film is really going to bug the antis because it is exactly the opposite of what they've been pushing for years. And they're not going to like the next film very much either. I don't know about you, but I reckon scavengers like corvids have been on the increase in recent years. Not science, observation. I've been out helping protect a farmer's pig nuts from crows and rooks. They may be fast, but they are not thick. Corvid shooting requires stealth and cunning. I am out with crow shooting enthusiasts Matt Turley and Nigel White. It's before sunrise and we're on a pig farm outside Taunton in Somerset. Matt has been shooting this piece of ground for 12 years.
First season was absolutely unbelievable. We did 24,000 cartridges for the first season here, which we probably shot about 16,500 crows. Over the years now they have dropped back a considerable amount. You know, average day now you're probably only seeing 2,000 to 2,500 coming here. Each crow's probably eating, they reckon, about 2 ounces of pig food a day. So obviously 2,500 times by 2 times by 7 days a week. It's a considerable amount of food. We were slowed down a bit through April, obviously due to the lockdown. But we certainly made up for it now in May and obviously now into June. Random decoy pattern out there this morning. We've got the FF5 flapper up in the tree. Obviously they can see that one from a long way off, which gives them the confidence to come in over the decoys. There is one down on the ground, yeah, just another added attraction for them. Obviously when the crows are coming here to the field, they're not looking for a uniform pattern, they're looking for birds that are feeding. If you look at a flock of crows, they're not all facing the same direction all the time. So we just find a random pattern works, and it works well for us.
A few days ago, so the birds would get used to it, Matt built a hide out of 3 socially distancing piglet boxes. The morning gets underway and the birds start coming in. We have been shooting for 2 hours and Matt is not totally delighted.
Not as many as we were hoping, but obviously we have been shooting this every 3 or 4 days now since beginning of May. So we have slackened numbers a bit, and we shot 1,879 so far in that period. They are coming to the decoys, not as often as we would hope, but they are. We've got 53, 54 on the ground so far, so yes, it's going well. We should hopefully by about 7 o'clock have hit the 100 mark, which keep the farmer happy for another couple of days until we're back here again.
Matt and Nigel head out for a half-time tidy-up. All members of the corvid family are smart and fussy about what they see on the ground. The last few birds flared and flew away from us, which indicates they can see something they don't like.
Yeah, it's probably because we've got a few that are laying on their back, so we're just picking up now and just making sure they're not laying on their back, they're right way up.
So it's actually legs in the air that actually puts them off, does it?
Yes, yeah, they don't like it, so we just double check and make sure there's none laying on their back. We'll just be aware of the pigs as well, because they've all got young and they can move fairly quick when they want to. One eye on the pigs and one eye on the crows.
She lets me go on my way. Now, we're shooting a mixture of corvids today. Rooks, crows and jackdaws are shootable, ravens are not.
There is quite a few ravens here, yeah. We've got 3 or 4 nesting pairs within the local vicinity that we know of, and they are a nightmare. You watch them some mornings and they actually take baby piglets out of the pig ark.
And how do you tell the difference when they're flying over at speed?
Just a lot larger, and you normally hear them calling as well, that real deep voice that they've got when they shout.
You make that noise?
Yeah. I can do it. I'd love to, but I can't. Yeah. But if you have a look in these pig arks here now, we've got young pigs in there that are literally 2 or 3 days old.
Yeah.
And the ravens, they will come in and take those out.
Another hour and we reach the 100 mark. The birds are coming in groups, but the groups are getting further apart. Matt decides to play his joker and put up his whirly.
Just to see if it brings them in any more readily than what they already are. Which I think it's going to when you look behind you.
Yeah, they like it.
Yeah.
So is it ever possible to kind of have too much going on? Too many flappers, too many whirlies?
To be fair, I don't think it does, no. Especially with somewhere like here where they want to come and feed. They're used to seeing lots of movement, lots of birds, so no, I don't think it does make any difference.
At the end of the day, with 179 on the ground, we have the wash-up chat. Matt said if you would come back here two days' time, you'd probably get another 100.
Easy. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you stayed here right now to the last knockings of the evening time, you'd probably pick up another 100 birds easy. It's a 200-300 bird day every day. They just don't seem to decrease. So
what you're doing here is not really working, Matt, is what he's saying.
To some extent, no, but obviously, when we first started here, numbers were astronomical. There was a lot more pigs being reared outside, so there was a lot more food here all the time, and numbers were a lot greater. But over the past 10 years now, they have gone down slightly, but we're still shooting exactly the same bag off of lesser birds, if that makes sense.
Nigel, you shoot lead.
Yeah.
Matt shoots steel.
I basically, it's not through preference, it's basically what we can get at the time. I've got nothing against steel whatsoever. Like you see today, Matt takes some phenomenal birds with steel, and I'd shoot steel as well. People say it doesn't kill. It does kill. I've got no problem with steel whatsoever. If they haven't got steel, then I'll shoot lead. It's as simple as that. If they haven't got lead and they've got steel, steel's cheaper, I'll buy whatever I can get.
And people say you can't shoot birds over 50 yards with it. That's the real problem with steel.
I disagree totally. I've seen Matt drop and myself drop birds 50, 60 yards, no problem, and quite consistently. And I suppose if you was to talk to George Digweed, he would tell you the same. If you put it in the right place, the birds are full. It's as simple as that. So people that say it doesn't kill, no.
And Matt, are you shooting steel because you're a member of Greenpeace and you...
Yes. No, just purely it's cheaper. Obviously I don't don't supply my own cartridges, so I try and keep the cost down for the farmer. And steel at the time was the best choice. And at £5 a box, when we're doing several thousand cartridges a month, it's kind on his pocket.
This is a shoot where you can have 100 to 200 birds every couple of days, and it costs £20 a day. Not £20 a bird, a day. There are some drawbacks. The birds are black and greasy, not grousey, and you are in a pig field, but the shooting is amazing. If you want to give this a go, you will find Matt's email address in the description below. Well, thank you, Matt and Nigel. It really was a great fun day out. I recommend anybody doing that. And now from West Somerset to the wider world of hunting and shooting on YouTube, it is Hunting YouTube. This is Hunting YouTube, which aims to show the best hunting and shooting videos that YouTube has to offer. Alex Davidson Outdoors is up for a catch and cook, so goes out with long nets and flushes the rabbits out of a wood. No ferrets, just beaters. Hunter's Vermin has found footage from years ago, which he has now edited and put out. He hoped it was going to be a good day, showing how to use abandoned barns as hides, but it turns out to be miss after miss. Yusuf Joey Paracha gets in touch. He has set up the Himalayan Hunter channel about stalking ibex. In this film, he is in the Dilisang Valley of northern Pakistan, and the scenery is stunning. Wild Serbia is after roebuck and foxes in the pretty east of the country. It's a difficult hunt, and in Serbian with English subtitles. If you want to see the quality of roebuck in Poland, tune in to Dash Boar, which is on Polish national TV, and then transfers to this YouTube channel. It's in Polish, and the imagery is lovely. From Austria, Woodwalker puts out this film with English subtitles about stalking roebuck. It is a film from 2020, says the description, and it looks like the rut has already started. Hunting NT combines surf and turf in this film. He is in Australia's Northern Territory shooting pigs and catching giant river prawns. And finally, Ahmed Hunter from Algeria puts out a film about bolting jerboas. Yes, you heard it here first. The jerboa looks like a cross between a gerbil and a wallaby, and the sand and the sun add new challenges to running dogs on them. That's it for this week. I've put all these films into a playlist for you. Click on the I symbol top right or check this film's description. If you have a YouTube film you would like us to pop into the weekly top 8, email me the link, charlie@fieldsportschannel.tv. Well, that is it for this week, and I'm going to do something rather unusual because, as you've probably noticed, my black and white friend is trying to lure more of his friends to that Larsen trap behind me, and I'm going to show you why. As I tell you that you can go to our website, you can click to like us on Facebook and on Instagram, you can follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, and of course pop your email address into our register page and we'll contact you about this show. Fieldsports Britain, it's at 7 PM UK time every Wednesday, and I am looking for something because I saw it on the way out here. Here it is. This is why we get very cross with magpies. Good hunting, good shooting, good fishing, and goodbye.